They've been desperately running around trying to manufacture a problem with Iran so that they can provide the solution. This is Donald Rumsfeld, the Defense Secretary in America when the war on terror was launched and everything, and the war with Iraq. In 1983, he went to Saddam Hussein on behalf of the Reagan-Bush administration to arrange for the shipment of biological and chemical weapons to Iraq, the very same weapons that were used against the Kurds. It came out in government documents in 2002. This was a newspaper report. Donald Rumsfeld, the US Defense Secretary and one of the most strident critics of Saddam Hussein, met the Iraqi president in 1983 to ease the way for US companies to sell biological and chemical weapons, including anthrax and bubonic plague cultures, according to newly declassified US government documents. Donald Rumsfeld was also on the board of a company called ABB, European engineering giant, when they sold nuclear technology to North Korea, and when Rumsfeld became Defense Secretary, he used the fact that there was a nuclear situation in North Korea to target that country and condemn that country. This is how problem reaction solution works. Create the problem and then offer the solution. The other technique that runs alongside this, I call the totalitarian tiptoe. You know from the start that you're going from A to Z. But you know if you go in giant leaps, people are going to look up and say, what's going on? Because the change is so vast and clear. So what you do with a totalitarian tiptoe is you go in little steps, as big as you can get away with, mind, and every single step is projected to the people as unconnected to all the others. That's how we went in Europe from a free trade area, good for jobs, nothing to worry about, into what is now a centralized superstate, and they ain't finished yet. The totalitarian tiptoe. This is how we're going in changes in legislation day after day after day to the Orwellian society. Except that since 9/11 it's more like the totalitarian sprint. I hear people, I've heard people say over the years that what that David Icke guy is saying about this global conspiracy, centralized power and all that stuff, a load of rubbish. And then I see the same people going, stop globalization, stop globalization. What is globalization? It is the public face of the very agenda that I've been talking about for nearly 20 years. The agenda of centralizing power on a global level in every area of our lives. I know some people, good luck to them. They get to the level of transnational corporations and they say that's the reason for globalization. Transnational corporations, greed, that's what's behind it. But there's another step to take when you realize that through the pyramid within pyramid structure, the transnational corporations in the end are controlled by the same people. They are different masks on the same face again. The transnational corporations are not the engine room for globalization, they are the vehicle for it. And in all areas of our lives, like I say, I've traveled quite a bit. You see even the physical culture of countries. I was in Japan 2 weeks ago. Even the visual, physical structure of countries is now looking the same all over the world. So when we see these protests about the World Bank and the IMF and the mayhem that they're creating and the World Trade Organization, what we need to understand is that it's part of a coordinated agenda for centralization on a much greater level than has been envisaged yet, where you start to connect everything. And the thing is that once you take away an area, call it a country, whatever you like, once you take away its ability to make its own decisions, and to be self-sufficient in making those decisions, you have created the end of freedom for that country, that area, whatever you talk about. If you look at Britain now, we can't even cough without the European Union agrees. And because of the World Trade Organization, countries can't even defend their own economies from other parts of the world. And this is not by accident, but by design. Because when you take away people's ability to make decisions within their own sphere, country, whatever, community, you are making them dependent on a global system that they have no control over. Exactly. And who has control over them within the global system? Anyone that controls the global system. And it's a dramatically few people. Like I say, there's one agenda going on behind the scenes, and there's the movie. Oh no, it's just free trade. I love free trade. I love that one. Free trade. That's the freedom to exploit some of the poorest people in the world, to make your products at a few cents on the dollar, and then bring them across the world with as little tariff barrier as possible, because it's free trade. Everyone's in favor of that. And then sell it for the highest price you can in another part of the world. It's not free trade, it's freedom to exploit. Free trade is Orwellian newspeak to mislead us to what it really means. I'll give you an example of how this is planned in advance and is not just random. In September 2000, there was an organization called the Project for the New American Century that produced a document of where it wanted America to go as soon as possible. This is before the Bush administration. It was a few months, 2 months before it won the election. The Project for the New American Century was created in the 1990s by people like Cheney, Rumsfeld, and Wolfowitz, the Deputy Defense Secretary at the time of 9/11 and the War on Terror. Also among the creating people of this organization were those that became known as neocons or neoconservatives in the Bush administration when it came in. In that document, in September 2000, it called for American armed forces to be the cavalry on the new American frontier. Bush is not even in power yet. He certainly ain't talking about this in his election campaign. The document said that key allies like the United Kingdom were the most effective and efficient means of exercising American global leadership. It says the United States has for decades sought to play a more permanent role in Gulf regional security. While the unresolved conflict with Iraq provides immediate justification, the need for a substantial American force presence in the Gulf transcends the issue of the regime of Saddam Hussein. It called for a blueprint for maintaining global US preeminence and shaping the international security order in line with America's principles and interests. In other words, the clique that controls America. This grand American strategy, it said, must be advanced as far into the future as possible, and the US must fight and decisively win multiple simultaneous theater wars, major theater wars, as a core mission. All these things unfolded when the Bush administration came in, because the people behind the Project for the New American Century and this agenda came in with the Bush administration. It talked about peacekeeping missions demanding American political leadership rather than the United Nations. It